Welcome back to the Budget Gamer channel, where we bring you critical and in-depth reviews of just about every indie game we can get our hands on. And today we're going to be taking a look at a mini indie called Mushroom Quest, now on the Nintendo Switch. And if you have seen Mushroom Quest popping up in the sales tab on the eShop, yes, it is a 5-cent game. Gold points are us. And maybe after the review you can figure out if 5 cents is just way too much of an asking price for a puzzle game. But starting off with the story as we always do, I gotta be honest, I mean, for 5 cents, the game's probably not gonna check all the boxes. There is absolutely no story in Mushroom Quest. But that gives me more time to talk about gameplay. Mushroom Quest as a puzzle game has absolutely nothing to do with quests. A quest requires a story and an objective, and if it is your objective to beat the game, that's your quest as the player. That's really not the Mushroom's quest. But regardless of who has what motivation, Mushroom Quest as a whole is divided up into 30 separate puzzling levels. And each of these levels, all the way from the obvious tutorial that teaches you how to walk toward a gym, and the game's final level 30 Brain Buster, you'll pretty much have to figure out how to navigate the maze-like room in order to collect all of the available gems. And it's by collecting all of these little green gems that pretty much signifies whether or not you've successfully completed the puzzle. Many of the earlier levels may have one gem or maybe one cluster of gems all in one area, so all you'll have to do is navigate to it. This might involve pushing boxes out of certain pathways or maybe even triggering a switch. But as the game progresses, you may have to find a key or even multiple keys, activate toggles, and even find your way through crumbling floor panels. But if you feel like that is a lot to get into, don't worry, because the game's 30 levels actually do have a fairly linear difficulty curve. So the earlier levels are fairly simple, but the game introduces you to one puzzling mechanic at a time, and then as it progresses, introduces more and more of that certain mechanic. As an example, when buttons and toggles are introduced, you'll have one color, and then two, and then by the end of the game, 3. Additionally, puzzling areas that require a key to open certain gates will possibly require more and more keys the closer you get to level 30. But in all honesty, as solving puzzles or working your way through mazes is pretty simple, that's really about it for the game as far as how it works mechanically. Looking at the aesthetics of Mushroom Quest though, it definitely has that sort of online flash game retro appeal. So there really isn't too much about the game that stands out visually other than the cute title screen character. And the soundtrack as well really isn't worth too much note. It is a soundtrack, it exists, but that's about it. And funny enough, only after about a minute or two of the review, we're already to what would typically be the game's critique section. And yes, there are a couple things a player should consider before diving into Mushroom Quest. First and foremost, as we've already mentioned, Mushroom Quest has nothing to do with quests and very little to do with mushrooms. But other than that, probably the biggest factor a gamer would want to consider before diving in and spending a whole 5 cents if you are managing to get it on sale is the length of the game itself. There are 30 puzzles in Mushroom Quest, and that actually is a pretty decent amount for a puzzle game, and if you consider the eShop's description that says that a very small number of game testers were even able to make it past level 15, you might be expecting Mushroom Quest to be either A, really challenging, or B, so complicated that it's gonna take forever. And unfortunately, I'd have to say that both of those assumptions are completely incorrect. Mushroom Quest is actually pretty fun, and some of the puzzles were fairly clever, but I played through it in one sitting first thing in the morning, and I think it took me about 35 minutes to beat the entire game. And while I was sipping my coffee, I hadn't finished the first cup, so I don't really think I was even firing on all cylinders. So again, you've got a choice to make. Either I am a puzzling genius, or the game really isn't that challenging. So taking a step back and looking at Mushroom Quest as an entire experience in the sum total of the micro game that it is, it still was pretty fun, and for the crazy sale of 5 cents, even if the game only gives you between half an hour and 45 minutes of some pretty fun puzzling, 5 cents for an hour of entertainment is still totally worth it. But for its regular asking price of just north of $3 USD, it might be a little much. And I'm sorry to say, but as tiny as this little indie game is, there's just really not that much to review. So that pretty much does wrap up the review of Mushroom Quest now on the Nintendo Switch. So if you enjoyed the review, or especially if you found it helpful, feel free to throw us a comment or a like to show your support, and don't forget to click that little bell icon when you subscribe to stay updated with the latest content. There are thousands of indie games out there on the Nintendo Switch's eShop alone, and new and unique ones are coming out every single day. So chances are, whether it's an unforgettable gem or an easy hard pass, if it's on the eShop, you're probably going to find out about it right here. But anyway, this has been The Budget Gamer, so as always, thanks for watching.